Let's take a couple of minutes and we'll walk through some of the navigation settings you may find useful on your Pioneer NEX head unit. Even though your particular receiver may have buttons on the side or across the bottom like this one, the on-screen operation in this demonstration is identical for the following Pioneer NEX models: AVIC 5100 NEX, 5200 NEX, and 5201 NEX. AVIC 6100 NEX, 6200 NEX, 6201 NEX. AVIC 7100 NEX, 7200 NEX, 7201 NEX. AVIC 8100 NEX, 8200 NEX, and AVIC 8201 NEX. From the main navigation screen, and right now I don't have any destination, any route programmed into the system, there's a couple of things that are on the screen that are very useful to you. At the top of the screen here, we see the address on the right and left side of the road that we're on right now, and this is the name of the road that we're on right now. This is the audio video window at the bottom of the screen, and we have an option to switch that on or off. If we go to the AV screen, you'll see that we have a navigation window at the bottom of the screen. The two just swap places. I'm going to touch the map button here to go back. And right now I have a compass on the screen. I can choose to open up the trip summary or the trip computer screen and have some other options available to me there while I'm driving. And I can touch the arrow or touch the map button to go back. Now let's take a look at some of the settings here. We'll touch the search function, and across the bottom here we have a couple of interesting settings. First one here is the marker. We'll touch the marker, and this is for creating saved locations. So when you're at home or near your home, you can touch home here and put in that address for a saved location for home. When you drive to work, you can do that same thing here and put in a saved location for work, and it makes it very easy to navigate back to those locations from anywhere you happen to be. We'll go back here. And the next thing we'll see is the 3D image. And right now we're in a 3D image. If we touch this button here, we switch to a 2D or two-dimensional overhead view with the heading up. If we touch 2D again, we get the 2D, two-dimensional overhead view with north up. Touch it one more time, and we go back to a 3D view with heading up. And if we touch the person over here, we can add in different profiles for people who may drive the vehicle. So we're going to go back and back to our settings here. Now there's no settings on this particular screen. If we touch the arrow over, though, we get to the settings screen. And we'll start off with route preferences. With route preferences, the first thing you want to do is choose the vehicle that you drive. If you drive a passenger car or passenger truck, you want to choose car in that location, in that instance. For other vehicles that this may be installed in, you want to choose those type of vehicles. You may get different routing depending on the vehicle that you choose. We'll go back. Next up is the route method. Right now we have the fast route method chosen. So there's the fast, easy, short, and economical route. I'd just like to point out that the fast route and the short route may be very different routes. They may be very different, so be careful what you choose there. Make sure it makes sense for you. We'll close that up. Next is navigation mode, on-road or off-road. I'm going to use this mainly for driving on-road, so I'm going to leave that as my selection. And then we have road types here. So you can force the system to use highways or not use highways, toll roads, ferries, that sort of a thing in your driving. Set those settings however it makes the most sense for you. We're going to go back here, and let's go over to the sound settings next. Under the sound settings, we have the voice at 100%. Let's open that window. So this is the voice that you'll hear when you get turn-by-turn instruction, and this is the volume, not necessarily the type of voice that you'll hear.
Have a nice trip. Drive carefully.
And I can drag that way back here.
Have a nice trip. Drive carefully.
So you want to choose a setting here that works best for you given the road noise and other things that you may hear in your vehicle. Also based on how you have the mute system set up when you're listening to music in the system. And if you need more information about that, be sure to check out the audio settings menu where you can choose to mute or to attenuate the music or whatever you happen to be listening to from the audio system. For right now, we're going to set this back up.
Have a nice trip. Have a nice trip. Drive carefully.
All right. We'll go back. Next up is the alerts and beeps and dings, and you can choose to have those things be a little louder or a little quieter depending on what you like. And then finally is voice guidance down here, which we can switch on or off. If you don't like voice guidance, you can choose to switch it off. I like to keep voice guidance on. It helps me with navigation. Now, streets can be announced a number of different ways, but we'll look at that in a different screen. And also here is early indication of maneuvers. I generally want to have that switched on so that I get information about making a turn before it's time to make the turn. Next up is verbosity level, and this has 3 different settings. We can choose low, medium, or high. So verbose means the system will talk to you a lot and give you a lot of information about upcoming turns and what else is going on. If you don't want the system to do that, or a little bit less, you can choose medium or minimal, and you'll get a very small amount of indication in the turns and so forth that's happening. So I'm going to keep the system on verbose because I like to get that information from the system, and I'm going to keep my voice guidance switched on. Let's go back now. Now let's check out the warnings. This is a really important one for a lot of people, especially the speed warning here. So let's open that window. The speed warning means that when you go over the posted speed limit, the system can notify you that you've gone over the posted speed limit. And that is the warn when speeding right here. So that can be audio and visual. The system will flash on the screen, and audio will say that you've gone over the speed limit. It can be just visual, where the speed limit flashes on the screen, or if you want, you can disable it completely. For right now, I'm going to leave mine on a visual notification. Now the speed limit when we're driving is always visible. We can switch that on or off if we want to have a speed limit sign there. And here inside and outside of cities, percent of speed limit means when we get a warning up here for the speed limit, we can say outside of cities when we are at maybe 110% of the speed limit is actually when we get the warning, or maybe we get that at 95, 85% of the speed limit. Again, set these things to where they make the most sense for you. We'll close that up and go back. Next up is the navigation map, and there's a couple of important things here to take a look at, and the first is the map display. We have the viewpoint up here, and we'll open this window. We can make it far, normal, close, or manual. So this is how close you get in or far away from your vehicle and how much map you can see. I'm going to leave that on the normal setting for right now. We'll scroll down a little here. I'm going to have landmarks turned on, buildings turned on, 3D terrain is turned on. All of those things make the map much more interesting and detailed for me. But you can certainly switch them on and off if you'd like to. We'll go back here. Next up is the data fields, and this is when we have a route programmed into the system. On the bottom left-hand corner here, there is a little chart, and you can choose what shows up in that chart. So what I have here is the top thing is the time of arrival at the destination. That means maybe 2 p.m. we're going to arrive at the destination. The time to the destination is 35 minutes left until we get there, and then the distance to the destination that counts down as we get a little bit closer. So you can change any of these things or change the order of these things right here. We'll go back. Next up is the route progress bar that you can switch on or off, and this is the green bar that shows up on the side over here that shows you how far along you are on your route. And we'll scroll down here to offer freeway services that you can switch on or off. Right now I have that switched on, and we need to determine what type of services will be displayed. And we can choose gas stations and what type of gas stations and other things that we want to see inside here. So you have a ton of different things that can be displayed by the system on the map automatically. You get to choose what they are. And we'll go back. Down here, I think these things are very important as well. I like to keep signposts turned on, but you can certainly switch it on or off right here. And signposts help me to see the navigation map and match up to what I'm seeing in real life. Next up is junction view, and this means that when I come to an intersection and I get turn-by-turn instruction, the system will automatically switch to a close-up view of the intersection and give me the real geometry of the intersection as I drive through it, and then switch back to the map or back to the AV system. And tunnel view, if you drive in an area where there are a lot of tunnels, the system can show you inside a tunnel when you're in that area. We can have alternate routes offered to us as we're driving here. We can have parking around our destination and hints for detours, again, if there are traffic situations. So we'll go back here and go to the regional setting. There's a couple of important things in the regional settings. First up is the language that you choose. Choose the language that makes the most sense for you here. I'm going to choose US English. We'll go back. Next up is the voice language that you hear when an announcement is made in turn-by-turn instruction. And under US English, there are 3 different options. The first one here is a text-to-speech or a computer voice, but it will also announce street names for your turns. So we'll hear what that sounds like.
Have a nice trip. Drive carefully.
Then we have a male voice.
Have a nice trip. Drive carefully.
And the female voice.
Have a nice trip. Drive carefully.
You can choose whatever one works best for you there. Next up is the time zone. Now, the GPS system will automatically set the time for almost every application, but occasionally you may need to adjust the time. This is how you'll do that, and you can switch from automatic time zone to a manual of some sort other time zone. So we will close this up and go back. And down to the display area here. The first thing here is the menu animations that you can switch on or off. If you switch them off, you'll see that we snap to screens rather than animating as we go to those screens. And I'm going to switch the menu animations back on. We'll go back. And the last thing we'll look at here is the traffic information. Only selected Pioneer NEX head units have built-in traffic, and those are the head units that have built-in HD radio as well. If your head unit does not have HD radio, the traffic service won't be available to you. So here we're going to switch the traffic service on. The source is the HD radio, and we will use on-screen traffic information to determine routes as we're driving. So when we're done, we can just hit the map button to go back.